Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's that kid Greg back again with another off the cuff video. Today, so recently I was made aware of the Black Lives Matter has posted their, for lack of a better term, list of demands. Now, one of my biggest criticisms of Black Lives Matter in the past is that they had no set goals, that they were kind of just in the streets mobbing, making noise over issues without proposing anything. So I'm really happy to see this, and for this video I'm going to go through them. I'm going to say what I like, what I dislike. Maybe I'll put a counter up on the screen for how many points that I think are good and how many points I think are bad. So on their website, if you go to platform, you can see their 6 main demands, and each demand has a breakdown when you click on it. These 6 demands are: end the war on black people, reparations, invest, divest, economic justice, community control, and political power. So I'm going to go through each of these one by one. I'll try to keep it brief for each one because they do pack a lot of stuff in there, and we'll see how this stacks up. So first off, end the war on black people. The TLDR at the top is: we demand an end to the war against black people. Since this country's inception, there has been named and unnamed wars in our communities. We demand an end to the criminalization, incarceration, and killing of our people. And then it gives a list going up to about 10 points, and each one breaks down the things that they want to see in particular. So the first one is an immediate end to the criminalization and dehumanization of black youth. This includes an end to zero-tolerance school policies, arrest of students, the removal of police from schools, and the reallocation of funds from police and punitive school discipline practices to restorative services. With this first point, I think it's good. I think it is a good idea to give more to the youth and definitely to get police out of school, but that's a tricky situation. A thing that happens a lot is that when young black people are being sentenced for crimes, you see a lot of the time where they're tried as adults, even though they're technically not, and it's a very tricky gray area because if I was a judge, it would have to depend on what the person did. So if it was like premeditated double homicide, I'd want to try the kid as adult. But if it was just some kid who drank and got into an accident or tore up the city a little bit, I'd want to let him off light because, he didn't mean to cause harm. He was just being stupid. Let's see. Next, we have an end to capital punishment. Oh, one thing I want to mention before that. In terms of reallocating funds from the police to school and restorative services, I think it's good. I think that investing in education is always the right thing. The problem is usually throwing money at schools often doesn't make them any better. To give a perfect example of this, my elementary school, we had enough funding to have a Mac laptop. When I was in like 3rd grade, they had bought Mac laptops to supply each student in the school and smart boards for nearly every classroom by the time I was in the 5th grade. And yet, due to shitty teaching, about a third of my class had to go to math tutoring to learn how to do multiplication properly. So, just throwing money at the school doesn't make it a better school. If you're going to take away funds from police to put into education, you should put it towards finding much better teachers. But that's a video unto itself. An end to capital punishment. Yes, I don't agree with the death penalty at all. I think the death penalty is stupid. I think it's just people giving in to their primal urges, and I think we could do much better. 3, an end to money bail, mandatory fees, court surcharges, and defendant-funded court proceedings. Absolutely. I think that that is highly exploitative, especially since the majority of people who commit crime, unfortunately, are people who are of a lower economic status. They're usually poor people trying to get ahead somehow. So trying to put the money on them seems incredibly unfair. So I'll good for them on that one. An end to the use of past criminal history to determine eligibility for housing, education, licenses, voting, loans, employment, and other services it needs. Well, I don't know. It should depend again. Because, okay, so nobody should be barred from getting an education, in my opinion. But at the same time, okay, so for example, the first one says eligibility for housing. If the person's past crime was running a large scale drug operation out of their apartment, I don't think you'd want that in your building or wherever. I don't think a landlord would like that. Or education, like if somebody was thrown in jail for, I don't know, for attempting to hack into a serious server or computer, and then they're trying to go learn how to hack more, it's like uh but it's a restriction of freedom, so I can understand. I don't think there should be a restriction on former felons voting. I don't think so. At least if they're US citizens, because that's it's one of our basic human rights, and it's kind of shitty that you get that taken away from you just because you fucked up in the past. But on to the next one. An end to the war on black immigrants, including the repeal of the 1996 crime and immigration bills, and an end to all deportations, immigration detention, immigration and custom enforcement, ICE raids, and mandated legal representation in immigration court. Okay. I'm sorry, but no. No, 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 no. Look, if you have entered the country illegally, I feel like if you are caught, then you should be deported, man. I'm sorry. Look, my parents came to the country legally. They worked hard to get their citizenship. I will never forget sitting every night after I finished my social study homework. I would sit in the room and practice the Pledge of Allegiance with my mom so she could get her citizenship. You know, it's a long, difficult process, and for the people who undergo it, they really want to be American. And so if you come to this country illegally and you have no intention of gaining your citizenship and you get caught, I'm sorry, but they're going to have to send you home. Customs enforcement. ICE, I mean, they're the ones who catch illegal immigrants. Without them, there's nothing. There is no way to know who's a citizen and who's not. So to get rid of them, I mean, it kind of defeats the purpose of having citizenship in the first place. But legal representation in immigration court, I do think is needed. I think that that is a good idea. So not really too much on this one, but there is a good idea in there. An end to the war on black, trans, queer, and gender nonconforming people, including their addition to anti-discrimination civil rights protections to ensure they have full access to employment, health, housing, and education. So, in reference to LGBT people, I would hope that the LGBT movement would be working to make these things more accessible for LGBT people of all colors. Good on them for trying to help out, but I don't think that this is a place where Black Lives Matter needs to be. Moving on. An end to the mass surveillance of black communities, and the end to the use of technologies that criminalize and target our communities, including IMSI catchers, drones, body cameras, and predictive policing software. Okay, I could see predictive policing software and drones, but body cameras? I would think that body cameras would be the best thing to have on all cops, because if you have a camera that's shooting from the cop's perspective at all times, then there can be no question on the cop's intentions or what the situation was like. Like, think about it, like if we had body cameras in the case of Mike Brown. There wouldn't have been this back and forth about if he had his hands up or if he went for the gun or not. We would have been able to look and judge for ourselves. I don't like that they don't want body cameras, because I really do think body cameras is one of the best things we can have. The demilitarization of law enforcement, including law enforcement in schools and on college campuses. Okay, Do they mean police officers or school safety officials? Because there is a difference. School safety officials don't have guns. They usually don't have cuffs. They are simply trained to subdue students in the case that they are acting violently. So I'm not really sure what they mean, but the sentiment of demilitarization in law enforcement, I can definitely agree with that. But I don't know what exactly they mean by getting rid of them in schools. I don't know. An immediate end to the privatization of police, prisons, jails, probation, parole, food, phone, and all criminal justice related services. Yes, I am on one with this one. I think that having private prisons and police has made it's basically made a business out of catching criminals. This is why we get things like quotas where they have to arrest a certain amount of people in a day, or you have cops looking for trouble out in the streets where they should just be patrolling. They're actively looking to create a situation. I think that is definitely a good thing. So A plus. And let's see, number 10. Until we achieve a world where cages are no longer used against our people, we demand an immediate change in conditions and an end to public jails, detention centers, youth facilities, and prisons as we know them. This includes an end to solitary confinement, the end of shackling of pregnant people, access to quality healthcare, and effective measures to address the needs of our youth, queer, gender nonconforming, and trans families. Huh? I don't. Are they saying they don't want jails at all? Look, I can agree with there needs to be better care for people who are pregnant if they're being arrested, but that's certainly. But you should still be able to put them in handcuffs. If a woman is pregnant and she's acting violent and crazy, you might want to put her in handcuffs, not just to protect yourself and the people around her, but to protect the baby. I mean, I could agree with with trying to find another option from solitary, because that really breaks a person down. But to end jails entirely, I mean, we have violent criminals that exist, like mass murderers, serial killers, all types of stuff. And that's where they hold these people, jail. So I can't agree with that one. So on this point altogether, I can give them I'll give them 6 out of 10. That is my grade for the End the War on Black People section of this. Next up is reparations. The TLDR. We demand reparations for past and continuing harms. The government, responsible corporations, and other institutions that have profited off of the harm they have inflicted on black people. From colonialism, oh my god, I can't speak today. From colonialism to slavery through food and housing redlining, mass incarceration, and surveillance must repair the harm done. This includes reparations for the systemic denial of access to high-quality education opportunities in the form of full and free access for all black people, including undocumented and currently and formerly incarcerated people, to lifetime education, including free access and open admissions to public community college and universities, technical education, educational support programs, retroactive forgiveness of student loans, and support for lifetime learning programs. No. Oh my god. No. First of all, where does the money for that come from? Real talk. Like, I don't want to sound like some dirty capitalist, but you can't expect people to just work for free. And then secondly, you want to give this to only black people. Now, I understand why, but that is horribly, horribly unfair to other groups that have been marginalized in this country. It's harshly, harshly unfair. It's not equal at all. You're asking for equality, and it's not equal at all. Look, there are a ridiculous sum of scholarships and grants and financial aid that you can get for education just by being black already. You know, it's out there. You just have to grab the opportunity. That's what my last rant was about, opportunity and outcome. You know, what you should be focusing on for any people who are involved in Black Lives Matter that might be listening, you should be focusing on making students more aware of these opportunities to get free schooling, because it's all there. You just have to look for it, which is, yeah, it can be difficult, but you just have to look for it. Okay, moving on. Reparations for the continued divestment from discrimination toward and exploitation of our communities in the form of guaranteed minimum livable income for all black people with clearly articulated corporate regulations. No. Look, a minimum income for all black people, again, it's I don't want to say this, but that's racist. It's racist in the sense that you're giving black people free money and everyone else has to work for it. That's not okay. And then second, just the base minimum income, you basically what you're saying is if a black person doesn't want to strive to be anything more than they are, if they don't want to strive to be exceptional or great or good at anything, that's okay because they can just fall back onto the default. That's no, I'm not with that at all. I am very much somebody who enjoys the idea of exceptionalism. I want to see black excellence. I want to see all people's excellence, but we're talking about personal bias here. I want to see black excellence. Like, I want to see black people strive for greatness. And only what this screams to me is people being content with the minimum, and I don't like that at all. Let's see. 3, reparations for the wealth extracted from our communities through environmental racism, slavery, food apartheid, housing discrimination, and racialized capitalism in the form of corporate and government reparations, focused on healing ongoing physical and mental trauma and ensuring our access and control of food sources, housing, and land. What? I don't get it. Are you saying that we should take stuff away from people who already own it? I don't know, but that doesn't. No. 4, reparations for cultural, educational exploitation. So this is all just asking for more reparations. And let's see. So I'm going to skip number 4 because from what I can see, it basically says the same thing. And 5, legislation at the federal state level that requires the United States to acknowledge the lasting impacts of slavery, establish and execute a plan to address those impacts. This includes immediate passage of H.R. 40, Commission to Study Reparation Proposal for African Americans Act, or subsequent versions, which call for reparation remedies. Okay, so I don't like this point. I'm gonna give them a thumbs down for this one. And the reason why is I don't agree with reparations simply because way too much time has passed. The time for it has long since gone. And at this point, it wouldn't do anything to help. We have too many black people in this country that don't have ties to American slavery anymore. Me being a perfect example of that. So, to hand out, it's been so long since slavery. Most of the people, I don't even think people's grandparents remember slavery. Maybe they remember the civil rights movement, but not slavery. So reparations for that, it's not feasible in any sort of way, and I think it's foolish to be directing your energy there. So thumbs down for that. So you get a thumbs up for the first one, and a thumbs down for this one. All right. Invest, divest. We demand investments in education, health, and safety of black people instead of investments in criminalizing, caging, and harming black people. We want investments in black communities, determined by black communities, and divestment from exploitative forces, including prisons, fossil fuels, police, surveillance, and exploitative corporations. This includes a reallocation of funds at the federal and state and local level from policing and incarceration to long-term safety strategies such as education, local restorative justice services, and employment programs. This is basically the same point from the first thing, which was putting an end to, no more dehumanization of the youth. So, it's the same point, so the same things follow that I said earlier. 2. The retroactive decriminalization, immediate release, and record expungement of all drug-related offenses and prostitution, and reparations for the devastating impact of the war on drugs, criminalization of prostitution, including a reinvestment of the resulting savings and revenue into restorative services, support those impacted by the sex and drug trade. Okay, so you can't, first of all drug related offenses, no. If somebody was peddling meth or crack to kids, I'm sorry, but put that man in jail or woman in jail, because both happens. Um, no, that's not okay. It's not okay. But I think people who were just caught using, somebody smoking a little bud, whatever, people who've been shooting up, yes, that is fine. I don't personally think junkies or users of drugs should be sent to jail in the first place. I think they should be sent to rehab instead, like mandatory rehab. And I think that would be a much better use of our tax dollars, if you ask me. Prostitution, that is a whole other can of worms that I am not willing to open right now. All I can say is that in most states, prostitution is legal. So if you get caught doing it, I'm sorry. There's nothing I can say for you. However, personally, I don't really think it should be legal, because it's illegal on a basis of morality, when we shouldn't be taking morality like that into objective law. So, like, prostitution harms no one. It is a person using their body to make money. That's all it is. If that should be illegal, then so should acting. So should porn, all this other stuff. So, but that's, again, whatever. That's a whole different can of worms. Number 3, real, meaningful, and equitable universal health care that guarantees people have access to health centers, culturally competent services for all people, specific services for gender, non-conforming, queer, and trans people. Okay, I don't understand why they keep bringing that up. I thought this was Black Lives Matter. I thought this was specifically addressing issues of black people. Like, you literally could have just summed that up as competent services for all people and just cut it right there. I don't see why they needed to specifically bring up those groups, because they do have their own group already, which is the LGBT movement. But yeah, that seems fine. I mean, if you're for universal healthcare, that's fine. I really don't have a say either way on the matter. I have to learn more about how healthcare works, to be honest, to truly make a judgment on that. So I'm just gonna leave that be. Constitutional right at the state and federal level to a fully funded education, which includes a clear articulation of the right to a free education for all, special protections for queer and trans. Again, with the queer and trans, like, they have their own group. I don't understand. Wraparound services, social workers, free health services, including reproductive body autonomy, a curriculum that acknowledges and addresses students' material and cultural needs. No. High quality food, free daycare, and freedom from unwarranted search and seizure or arrest. Those last few points with access to food, daycare, and unwarranted search, seizure, and arrest, I can agree with those. But the main point, which said free education for all, I am not for that at all. But I do think tuition costs are ridiculous around this country, but that doesn't mean everyone deserves a free education. Look, the fact of the matter is, having college be free would completely devalue a college degree. See, because getting a college degree there's many factors that add value to a college degree. One of it being the time it takes and work it takes. The time it takes to get it, then it's the work that it takes to get it, and then there is the personal investment made to get it. So those three factors are what makes a college degree worth something. Without a So taking away that personal investment part and just making it free, that drops down the value of the degree by like a third. The whole reason college has been like why colleges are so highly esteemed is because there is a barrier to get in, and because you do have to work hard to get that grant or that scholarship or whatever to get in, or be able to put down your own money. And I mean, there was a time where you could work your way to college. It's not now, but that was also one of the things that made college degrees so valuable. So I don't think they should be free, but I certainly think something should be done about the ridiculous tuition costs. Moving on, a divestment from industrial multinational use of fossil fuels. What the hell does this have to do with black people? What does this have to do with black lives at all? That hurts everybody. That should just be something that should be taken up with a political party. And Black Lives Matter is not a political party. They are an activist movement. So I don't understand why this is here. Moving on. A cut in military expenditures and a reallocation of those funds into domestic infrastructure and community well-being. I can agree with that. That seems perfectly reasonable. I think we spend way too much money on defense in this country when oftentimes we're not defending, we're attacking. So, I guess all in all, other than a couple of things, I don't really have much to say about this one. I'm not going to just throw it a thumbs down though, but I also can't really give it a thumbs up, so you'll just get a black power fist, which will stand for neutral. Economic justice. We demand economic justice for all and reconstruction of the economy to ensure black communities have collective ownership, not merely access. This includes a progressive restructuring of tax codes to ensure sustainable redistribution of wealth. Yeah, I'm with that. I think taxes need to be fixed. I think, first of all, we need to get rid of sales taxes and income taxes. Those are the two biggest things. Sales taxes and income taxes disproportionately affect people of lower income much more than those of like middle class, upper middle class, and rich. So yeah, federal and state job programs that specifically targets the most economically marginalized black people, and compensation for those involved in care. No. Okay, no. This is the same thing as the guaranteed living wage. It stifles black exceptionalism by giving them a default to fall back on. Exceptionalism only rises when you have no other choice but to be exceptional. So please don't make this the thing. You know, I don't want to see a bunch of black people running around picking up trash, doing community service type jobs. Like, that would be awful. 3, a right to restored land, clean air, clean water, clean housing, and an end to exploitative privatization of natural resources. I don't know what this has to do with black. This seems like an all people problem. Shit, yeah. The way you guys keep coming at some of these issues, I'm thinking that you guys aren't Black Lives Matter. You guys might be All Lives Matter. Because a lot of these affect more than just black people. Like, everyone has a right to clean air and clean water. Like, worldwide. That's everybody. So, I guess, sure, why not? But I don't see what it has to do with black people. The right for workers to organize in public and private sectors, especially in on-demand economy jobs, yes. Everybody should have the right to unionize if they so choose. It's very important that employees have representation so that they don't get exploited. So I will +1 on that. Number 5, restore the Glass-Steagall Act to break up large banks and call for National Credit Union Administration and U.S. Department of Treasury to change policies and practices around regulation. Yes, restoring Glass-Steagall is awesome. I always wanted that. It's one of the main things that drew me to Bernie Sanders. Oh, I spilled the beans on my political affiliation. But no, I don't understand what this has to do with black people. Look, the next one too. An end to the Trans-Pacific Partnership. What does this have to do with black people? What does this have to do? It's an idea for like the economy as a whole, but what does this specifically have to do with black people? Like, I understand like you can trickle it down to black people, but what does it have to do immediately with black people? Okay, number 7. Through tax incentives, loans, and other government-directed resources, support the development of cooperative or social economy networks. Facilitate trade. So basically, this point says that the governments at state, local levels should be trying to help more black businesses get started. And I'm in total agreement with that. I think one of the biggest problems with the black community is that there aren't enough black-owned businesses in the black community. You know, in my neighborhood, you go to the Spanish part of town, all the stores are owned by Spanish people. You go to the Asian part of town, all the stores are owned by Asian people. We have a gated community called Seagate. You go in there, everything is Jewish owned because the primary residents of Seagate just happen to be Jewish. Everything inside is owned by Jews. In the black parts of the neighborhood, we don't own crap, and it's obvious. So that's something I definitely agree with. Number 9, protections for workers in industries that are not appropriately regulated, including domestic workers, farm workers. Again, what does this have to do specifically with black people? Like, this should be an all-people problem. This is an all-people thing. So I'll give this a thumbs up, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like something that Black Lives Matter is equipped to handle. Next up, community control. We demand a world where those most impacted in our communities control the laws, institutions, and policies that are meant to serve us. From our schools to our local budgets, economies, police departments, and our land, while recognizing that the rights and histories of our indigenous family must also be protected. Okay, this includes direct democratic community control of local, state, and federal law enforcement aid. Whoa, okay, no. Because that sounds like communism, and communism never works. If you have ever watched The Lion King, it is proof that communism doesn't work. I'm dead serious. But no. Okay. Number 2, an end to the privatization of education. Again, I don't agree in getting rid of private education. I don't believe in getting rid of paid education. You know, if you have the means to send your kid to a better school because you've made a little extra money one summer, go ahead. That's up to you as a parent. Number 3, participatory budgeting at local, state. I'm not really sure what that means, and this is like off the cuff, so I don't want to waste time looking it up, so I'm gonna leave it a neutral on that one. But this point gets a bit of a thumbs down. So far, let's see. We have a 1 thumbs up, 1 thumbs down, 1 neutral, and another thumbs down. So it's not looking too great right now. So last point, political power. Yep. TLDR, we demand independent black political power and black self-determination in all areas of society. We envision a remaking of the current U.S. political system in order to create a real democracy where black people and all marginalized people can effectively exercise full political power. This includes an end to the criminalization of black political activity, including the immediate release of all political prisoners, and an end to the repression of political parties. Okay, I'm not sure what it means by black political activity. There's plenty of black politicians and black people who are into politics. And what's the other thing? The one thing I can agree with, though, is an end to the repression of political parties. The fact is, the two-party system sucks. Everyone knows this. And it's about time that we gave other parties a chance to show what they got. As long as they're not trying to radically change the country, like turn this into a communist hellhole or something like that. 2, public financing of elections and an end of money controlling politics. Yes, okay, I'm with that. But what does this have to do with black people? What does it have to do with black people? It seems like the only part of this so far that has had to do specifically with black issues has been like the first point that I opened. I don't understand. Let's see. Election protection, electoral expansion, and the right to vote for all people, including full access, guarantees, and protections of the right to vote for all people through universal voter registration, automatic voter registration, pre-registration for 16-year-olds, same-day voter registration, voting day holidays, enfranchisement of formerly and presently incarcerated people, local and state resident voting for undocumented people, and a ban on any disenfranchisement laws. So, things I agree with. Same-day voter registration, check. Voting day holiday, check. Enfranchisement of formerly and presently incarcerated people, check. State resident voting for undocumented people. No, the whole point of being a citizen is having the right to vote, having a say in what goes on in the country. If you are undocumented, you should not have that right. If you want to be able to vote, you should have to go through the process like everyone else who became a citizen had to go through. Like, if you weren't born here and you came here from another country, then if you want to vote, you should have to become a citizen. I don't understand, like, how easy would it be? If this is the case, and you didn't have to be a citizen to vote, literally, how easy would it be for Russia or some other crazy country to just send in a bunch of people to sabotage our elections? It would be so simple, and it boggles my mind that is something that they have not considered. But then the other thing is, what does this have to do with black people? Seriously. Black people can vote. We've been able to vote for a very long time. What does this have to do with us? I don't understand. Full access to technology, including net neutrality and universal access to the internet. I don't understand what full representation means, but no, we shouldn't have full access to the internet. I mean, I did think something would be cool where, like, in cities, you could have, like, a floating universal Wi-Fi that everybody could put money into via taxes. Like, for big cities like New York, LA, Chicago, Detroit, like, that'd be really cool, but not universal access. You know, the internet is something that has become integral to our lives, yes, but it is also a service. You know, it is provided to us by someone, by companies. It's just like TV was back in the day. You know, like TV by itself was just that, but cable, which became integral to a lot of people's lives, costs money because there's a service being provided to you. Let's see. Number 5, last point. Protection and increased funding for black institutions, including historically black colleges and universities, black media, and cultural, political, and social formations. Okay. Increased funding for HBCUs. I'm down with that. I think that's dope. Black media? Look, if you run black... If you want to see better black media, having people from higher up just toss money into it is not going to make that happen. What will happen, though, is that you'll be restricted on what you're allowed to create. If black media is not funded, if media designed for black people by black people is not funded by black people, then it's not going to be able to uphold the standards of by black people for black people. It's that simple. It's like when you see a TV show being funded by a certain company and their product just pops up everywhere. Like when Sony makes a Spider-Man movie and everybody has a Sony laptop or a Sony phone or a Sony TV. It's come on, man. It's lame. And cultural, political, and social formations. I don't know if that means activist movements, because it looks like what you're going for, and activist movements shouldn't be funded by the government. But I do agree that protesters should not be attacked if they're being peaceful, and there shouldn't be so much police present if a protest is being peaceful. Like, they should be able to gauge out the situation and decide, okay, we don't need this many cops here. We don't need to have the riot shields out. We don't need to have batons at the ready, etc., etc. So, I will give this one a... I'll be nice and throw them a neutral on this one. So, what do we have? We have final score. Thumbs up, neutral, thumbs down, neutral. Okay. Now, why did I go this route? Why did I go through all these points? Well, again, one of my biggest problems with Black Lives Matter was that they didn't have a set out goal. Now, they do have a set out goal. The problem is, now, me personally, now that I'm having, is that majority of these goals don't pertain to black people in particular. And I thought that was the point of Black Lives Matter. I thought the point of Black Lives Matter was to look at issues that specifically target black people. And a lot of the critics were saying that the problems that they're talking about are either A, not problems that only affect black people, or B, they're not as big problems as one might think. And now, while that second part, is not addressed here, where they're not as big problems as one might think, certainly that first criticism is where a lot of the problems that they're talking about, a lot of the things that they want to fix are not things that just pertain to black people. And it's funny because these are the same people who get mad at you for saying all lives matter, and yet a majority of their demands would fall in line with a all lives matter type person. Assuming that person was not saying it just to spite Black Lives Matter. You know what I mean? But this is certainly interesting, and I will link to the website down below. I hope that Black Lives Matter actually puts out more information like this that I can go over and look at, because what it does is, having something solid that people can look at allows for constructive criticism, which lets Black Lives Matter, if they continue on, it allows them to get better. And hell, if Black Lives Matter is able to focus their thoughts and really get an idea of what they want to accomplish and set out a real plan for that and work at it, they can actually achieve a lot. So, and I hope that with these list of demands and the inevitable flow of criticism that's going to flow in, they'll be able to actually look at what they're asking for, go over it again, find what's good, find what's bad, and then put this out again, and then keep working at it and refining it until it's something that is really good. But that is just what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for listening. I will see you in the next video, and have an awesome day. Also, I want to say thank you to the new subscribers. I see you guys, and whoever made it to the end of this video, thank you as well. And all right, that's all I have to say. Bye.